In 1462, the most feared army on earth, 90,000 Ottoman soldiers, led by the man who conquered Constantinople, marched into a tiny country called Wallachia, and then just turned around and went home. No battle, no defeat. They quit. Because waiting for them outside the capital was a forest. Except this forest wasn't made of trees. It was made of 20,000 impaled bodies. And the Sultan, a man who'd seen war his entire life, took one look at it and said, "I can't take land from a man capable of this. Now, I know what you're thinking. Vlad the Impaler, psychopath, madman, the guy who inspired Dracula. That's what almost every video about him will tell you. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Every single horrifying thing this man did had a purpose, a target, an audience, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So today, we're going inside his mind. And by the end of this video, you're going to ask yourself a very uncomfortable question. Was Vlad Dracula insane? Or was he the smartest man of his century? Let's get into it. Okay, before we crack open this man's head, you need 60 seconds of setup. Because Vlad's mind makes zero sense until you understand the impossible situation he was born into. The year is the mid-1400s. The place, Wallachia. Basically modern-day Romania. Small country, beautiful and cursed with the worst real estate in medieval Europe. Because to the south, you've got the Ottoman Empire, the superpower of the age, swallowing kingdoms whole. To the north, the Kingdom of Hungary, the sword of Christian Europe. And squeezed right between them, Wallachia. Imagine running a corner store on a street controlled by two rival mafia families. Both want protection money. Both will burn your shop down if you pay the other guy. That was Vlad's job description, and ruling this place chewed men up. Princes in Wallachia didn't retire. They got assassinated, usually by their own nobles. Vlad himself would gain and lose this throne 3 separate times. Now, real quick, the name. Yes, Dracula was his actual name. It means son of Dracula, son of the dragon, because his father was knighted into the Order of the Dragon, an elite brotherhood sworn to defend Europe from the Ottomans. Honestly, kind of a badass name before Hollywood got to it. The nickname, the Impaler, came after his death, and 400 years later, Bram Stoker borrowed Dracula for a vampire, and the real man got buried under the myth. But hold on to this. The vampire is fiction. What the real Vlad did, honestly, it's worse. And it all started with what happened to him as a child. It's 1442. Vlad is 11 years old. And his father, the Dragon Knight himself, is summoned to meet the Sultan. He brings 2 of his sons, Vlad and his little brother Radu. And when they arrive, it's a trap. All 3 are arrested. The father gets released, but only under one condition. His boys stay behind as hostages. Living collateral to guarantee daddy behaves. And the father agrees. He leaves his sons in enemy hands and rides home. Sit with that for a second. You're 11. And the one man whose entire job is to protect you just traded you away like a poker chip. That teaches a kid the most dangerous lesson a human being can learn. Loyalty is a lie. Everyone is negotiable. And it gets worse. A few years into his captivity, word reaches Vlad from home. His father, assassinated, hunted down by the boyars, Wallachia's own nobles, and his older brother, Mircea, tortured, blinded with hot iron stakes, and buried alive. His family wasn't destroyed by the enemy. It was destroyed by their own people. Now, obviously, we can't put a man born 600 years ago on a therapist's couch. But here's what we do know. Modern researchers ran something called ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experiences, tracking what severe childhood trauma does to the adult brain. The findings are chilling. Kids who grow up with betrayal, captivity, and violence are dramatically more likely to develop hypervigilance, deep permanent distrust, and a hair-trigger relationship with aggression. Read Vlad's childhood with that checklist in hand. Every single box is ticked. But here's my favorite part. The part that proves trauma isn't destiny. Vlad wasn't alone in that captivity. Radu was right there next to him. Same prison, same betrayal, same dead father. And Radu adapted, embraced Ottoman culture, befriended the future Sultan, grew up loyal to the empire. Psychologists have a name for this. In prolonged captivity, especially in children, the mind picks one of 2 survival strategies. Bond with your captors or harden against them. Radu bonded. Vlad watched, learned their language, their tactics, their way of thinking, and kept a list. Two brothers walked into that prison. A diplomat walked out of one door, and out of the other came something the Ottoman Empire would soon wish it had never created. Because Vlad eventually comes home. And the boyars who buried his brother alive? They're about to get a dinner invitation. 1456. After years of exile, Vlad takes back the throne. He's in his mid-20s. And the boyars, the nobles who betrayed his father and buried his brother, they're still there. Still rich. Still smug. So what does Vlad do? Raise an army? Purge them in the night? No. He throws a party. An Easter feast at his palace. All the great boyar families come, because to them, Vlad is just the next disposable prince. And right there at dinner, wine flowing, he asks one innocent little question. Tell me, how many princes of Wallachia have you seen rule in your lifetime? They laugh and they answer honestly. 7, 12. Some of the old ones say 20. They think they're bragging. What they've actually done is confess. Because in a country where princes keep dying young, surviving every regime means one thing. You betrayed every regime. Vlad didn't need spies or trials. He got the guilty to raise their own hands at a dinner party. The old ones were impaled that same day. The younger ones were marched into the mountains and forced to build his castle with their bare hands until their fancy clothes rotted off their backs. Now, pause. Is this a madman? Look closer. A madman lashes out at random. Vlad waited 8 years, identified the exact people who destroyed his family, extracted a public confession, and executed them in front of an audience. Because the message was never for the dead. It was for everyone still breathing. And it didn't stop with revenge. Vlad turned that same brutal logic on crime itself. Thieves, liars, corrupt officials, same stake. No exceptions. Beggar or nobleman. There's a famous legend, probably polished over the centuries, but revealing, that he placed a solid gold cup at a public fountain, unguarded, and in a country that had been drowning in crime, nobody ever stole it. Not once. Here's what's wild. Criminologists today call this deterrence theory. Punishment only changes behavior when it's severe, certain, and visible. Vlad understood all three intuitively, 500 years before anyone wrote them down. He just turned the severe dial all the way past human. So inside Wallachia, total order through total fear. But an empire to the south was about to test that strategy on a scale nobody could imagine, because the Sultan wanted his tribute. And Vlad had stopped paying. Here's what stop paying meant. Every year, Wallachia owed the Sultan gold, and something worse. 500 boys taken from their families to serve the empire. Vlad had been one of those boys. He knew exactly what he was refusing. And when the Sultan sent envoys to collect, Vlad had their turbans nailed to their heads. That's a declaration of war against the most powerful military machine on the planet. So in 1462, Mehmed II comes to end him personally. 90,000 men, the army that broke the walls of Constantinople. Vlad can scrape together maybe 25,000. On paper, this war is already over. But Vlad had lived with the Ottomans. He knew their tactics, their fears, their language. And he understood something most commanders never figure out. When you can't destroy an army, you destroy its mind. So he never offers a real battle. Not once. He retreats and erases his own country as he goes. Burns the villages, poisons the wells. The Ottomans march for weeks through a scorched wasteland in the summer heat. Starving, sick, fighting an enemy they cannot find. Then Vlad attacks the one thing they thought was untouchable. In the middle of the night, his cavalry, some wearing Ottoman uniforms, speaking Ottoman Turkish, ride straight into the Sultan's camp. Chaos, slaughter in the dark. Vlad is personally hunting for one tent, Mehmed's. He misses it, barely. But now every soldier in that army knows, nowhere is safe, not even next to the Sultan. And then, the finale. The army reaches Vlad's capital, exhausted, paranoid, and the city gates are just open. No defenders. Just stretching for nearly 3 kilometers outside the city. The forest. 20,000 impaled bodies. The Sultan's own captured men, arranged like a message every soldier could read. Remember the beginning of this video? This is that moment. Mem II looked at that forest and turned the main army around. And his own chroniclers, his side, the people with every reason to make him look good, recorded him saying he could not take land from a man capable of this. Think about what that means. The stakes weren't rage. They were calculated, the closing argument aimed at the only target that mattered, the will to keep fighting. Modern militaries call this psyop, psychological operations, breaking the enemy's mind so you don't have to break his lines. Vlad ran a textbook asymmetric war 5 centuries before the textbook existed. One man, outnumbered 4 to 1. And he defeated an empire without winning a single pitched battle. So case closed, right? Mastermind. Except, there's a problem. If Vlad was so calculated, why did the stories say he went so much further than strategy ever required? It's time for the trial. Alright, let's put Vlad Dracula on trial. And I'll be honest with you, both sides of this case are stronger than you think. The case for monster. The chronicles claim Vlad killed somewhere between 40 and 80,000 people in a country of maybe 500,000. And it's not just the scale, it's the excess. Impalements for minor theft. 4. Laziness. There's an account of him dying calmly among the stakes, and when a nobleman complained about the smell, Vlad had him impaled higher than everyone else. So the smell wouldn't bother him. Strategy doesn't require that. If those stories are true, that's a man who didn't just use cruelty. He enjoyed it. Now, the case for Mastermind. Go back through everything we've covered and try to find one major act of violence without a purpose. The Boyar Feast, eliminating the faction that murdered 2 princes. The domestic terror and crime collapsed. The forest and an empire turned around. This was a man fluent in multiple languages, educated in the enemy's own court, who outthought the greatest military power of his age. Everything had a target. Everything had an audience. So, which is it? Here's the twist that changes the entire trial. Ask one question we haven't asked yet. Who wrote the evidence? Those most gruesome stories, the dying among corpses, the sky-high body counts, a huge chunk come from German pamphlets, printed in places like Nuremberg, starting around 1488, over a decade after Vlad was already dead. The printing press had just been invented, and these pamphlets became some of the first bestsellers in history. Medieval true crime, sold for shock value. And who was printing them? The Saxon merchants, the exact community whose traitors Vlad had punished. Let that sink in. Vlad the Impaler might be history's first victim of a viral smear campaign. And here's the mirror image. In Romanian folklore, this same man is remembered as a hero. The prince who defended the homeland and made it so safe you could leave gold in the street. Same man, same facts. 2 completely different stories, depending on who's telling it. So, my verdict. And I'm not going to cop out on you. Both, as one connected chain. The Ottomans built the trauma. The trauma built a capacity for cruelty most humans never develop. And then a first-rate strategic mind picked up that cruelty and aimed it, like a weapon, at precise targets for precise goals. Vlad isn't scary because he was a monster. Plenty of history's monsters were stupid. Vlad is scary because the monster and the mastermind were the same person. And they worked together beautifully. Monsters are born. People say no. Vlad was made. Step by step. Betrayal by betrayal. And he was paying attention the entire time. So how does a story like this end? Exactly how you'd expect. Violently and full of question marks. Winter, 1476. Vlad is fighting to hold his throne for the 3rd time, and somewhere in the marshes near Bucharest, he's killed. Nobody knows exactly how. Some say the Ottomans finally got him. Others say he was betrayed, struck down by his own men. Which, honestly, would be the perfect ending for a man who learned at 11 years old that everyone is negotiable. His head was sent to Constantinople, proof for the Sultan that the nightmare was finally over. But here's the thought I can't shake. We call Vlad a monster because his methods were visible. 20,000 stakes are hard to ignore. But fear as a tool of power? That never died with him. It just evolved. It got suits. It got speeches. It got better lighting. Vlad's real crime, maybe, was showing us the machinery without the cover on. And that's exactly what this channel is about. Welcome to Minds of History, where we don't just tell you what history's most important figures did, we crack open why. The trauma, the fears, the obsessions, the psychology behind the names in your textbooks. Because the events are only half the story. The other half was always in their heads. So here's my question for you. Who do we dissect next? Drop a name in the comments, and if someone already beat you to it, give their comment a like. That's literally how we pick the next episode. And if you made it this far, respect. You're exactly the kind of person this channel is built for. So hit subscribe, ring the bell, and smash that like button if this changed how you see Vlad. It genuinely tells YouTube to show this video to more people. I'm glad you were here for this one. See you inside the next mind.